Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you all for coming in early on a Saturday. My name's Sam Everingham and I'm sort of the conference organiser this weekend. Ella at the registration desk is there for any questions as well. I want to welcome not only all of you Australians who've come, but we've got many people who've come from overseas to add their expertise. In particular, our Platinum sponsor Growing Generations, who's been with us as a partner for years now, through thick and thin. Centre for Surrogate Parenting's come back on board as a gold sponsor this year, and we've got 3 new gold sponsors this year. City Fertility Centre in Australia are supporting us as Gold Family Surrogacy, and San Diego Fertility Centre, as well as 6 silver sponsors. And you'll have a chance to hear from many of those people and talk to them individually at the exhibitor tables over the weekend. But it was, as you can probably imagine, quite a big challenge getting people from all over the world to come at one time, especially with dramas we've had in recent months with earthquakes in Nepal and people not being able to get visas and so forth. So thank you for the sponsors for coming and supporting us. Without you, we couldn't bring so many parents together, so many speakers. We've got about 52 speakers and panellists, and many of those are parents and surrogates. In particular, I want to welcome the 17 Australian surrogates who've come this weekend to meet and talk about their journeys with you all. A few housekeeping issues. We've got a lot of sessions over the 2 days, so they've all got to run to time. So if you don't get a chance to ask questions at the end of a session, the chair will probably have to move on, but certainly those speakers will be available for questions sort of after the session in the breaks, and we've got breaks for that purpose. If you've come in a car, there are $15 all-day parking vouchers you can pick up from the registration desk before you exit. You may need to get those stamped at reception. And of course there's a drinks function tonight at just after the 5:10 finish, right here. As you all know, it's been a difficult year for surrogacy for Australians in particular, and for surrogacy globally. Been lots of changes, and we'll talk about many of those this weekend, and much of the good and the bad. I want to particularly, now I'm going to chair the first session, but I want to introduce Rob Reith, Surrogacy Australia President, who's going to say a few words about what Surrogacy Australia's been doing in the year just gone.
G'day everyone. Yes, so my name is Robert Reith, and I just wanted to really welcome you all here today and share just very briefly, hopefully briefly, what Surrogacy Australia's been up to in the last 12 months and what we want to do in the next 12 months. But first, I just want to make a special welcome to those people who are relatively new to surrogacy. Regardless of the reasons why you're here, you've no doubt already faced a few challenges just to get to this point. And that takes persistence, belief in yourself and courage, especially when the concept of surrogacy is so foreign to many people and perhaps even some of those closest to you. I don't want to say it's easier from here, but by coming to this conference, not only will you learn a lot about surrogacy, but you're helping to drive the community for surrogacy change. So who is Surrogacy Australia? We're a team of a dozen or so volunteers. All of us have had an intimate relationship with surrogacy, both here and overseas. What we do, primarily we do 2 things. Firstly, and most obviously, we provide information through our website for surrogacy, people engaging in surrogacy both here and overseas. Secondly, and equally as important, we advocate for change both publicly through the media, some of you have probably seen Sam a fair bit, and also by representing surrogacy interests at government and industry hearings. In regards to the advocacy work, there are 2 key issues that Surrogacy Australia are currently involved in. The first relates to the Medicare funding, and the second is to help create a commercial, or what we call compensated framework within Australia. In regards to the first issue, the current Medicare rules mean that if you need to undergo IVF treatment but require a surrogate to carry your baby, you do not qualify for the Medicare rebate. That means that instead of a cycle costing between $2,000 and $5,000, it can cost anywhere north of $10,000. So in our opinion, fairly obviously, this needs to change, and I can report today that we are very close to realising this goal. We had a meeting with the Federal Health Minister Susan Ley a few weeks ago, and while we don't have anything in writing just yet, she was very supportive of the case for change. The Health Department's finalising a submission to the Minister that she'll take to Cabinet, but we are hoping that within the next few months the IVF Medicare rebate will be available for surrogacy purposes. So the second is, of course, is a larger issue, and that relates to the advocacy of the establishment of a commercial or compensated framework here in Australia. We've got the chance to build a quality framework, perhaps the best in the world, and that's what we're striving towards. Again, we've got great support from a number of politicians, including in principle support from the Health Minister, and also, but critically, people such as the Chief Justices Diana Bryant and John Pascoe. Obviously, a lot of work needs to be done to help bring the Australian public with us, but we're confident that within a few years, compensated or commercial surrogacy will be available in Australia. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for attending. Have any questions, tap me on the shoulder, and look forward to a great couple of days. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. I'm going to chair these sessions. I'm going to introduce Lisa Banfield to you all. Lisa, I first met when we ran a surrogacy forum here in Sydney about 4 or 5 years ago, when New South Wales was just changing its laws to criminalise surrogacy. Many of us were outraged about that. Lisa was one of the few people who was prepared to get up in front of the media and say what a stupid thing they were doing. I was amazed by how well she spoke. Some of you may remember her from coming on the Insight show with me some years ago, where she spoke very well, much better than any of us can talk about the reasons why surrogacy is important to many families. Where is she? She's got 2 wonderful boys through surrogacy in the US. Please welcome Lisa Banfield.
A little bit overwhelmed by that intro, but thank you, Sam. Firstly, I'd like everybody to turn to the person next to you. If you know them, turn to somebody you don't. Say hi, introduce yourselves. Don't be shy. Come on. Okay, that's enough. Save it for morning tea. I do that in yoga. Well, we do that in yoga, and it feels really good before the session, so I felt like doing it this morning. So if your attendance here today is your first step in your journey to create a family, you've got to feel surrounded by the others here who know what they're doing, they care, but not only that, others that are in the same situation as yourselves. This is very rare to have a group of people like this all on the same mission. 19 years ago, as Sam mentioned, I had a few challenges due to medical negligence that resulted in major surgery. I was told it was going to be impossible to not only conceive, but also unable to carry a baby. 18 months later, in another personal medical blow, I was told I couldn't genetically contribute either. So apart from handing over my credit card, there wasn't much I could do biologically or physically to have a baby. My husband and I, though, tried 5 non-commercial surrogacy attempts with my sister's eggs and my girlfriend's womb in New Zealand. Bizarrely, despite both of them being very fertile, it never worked. After those failures, and in a time of no Google search, no conferences, no support groups, and in fact I didn't even really know properly what the word surrogacy meant, we somehow stumbled on an American agency, CSP. We didn't even know about overseas commercial surrogacy. Everything was done by fax and sort of surreptitious calls with people we could find in Darwin that had almost hidden away. So times have changed, which is fabulous. Around that time, though, miraculously, even though I was in menopause, my ovaries started working again, and I managed to produce eggs, which is a medical first and another reason that I wanted to continue on with this journey. So armed with those variables, we put our faith into CSP and our hard-earned money and travelled to the US. Now, having to deal with a few more personal unplanned medical challenges, and then at the last moment having to fight the Australian government because they decided to ban the export of embryos, so they wouldn't let John and I take our embryos overseas. But in 5 working days, I managed to overturn that ban and got those puppies over there. So I felt we were then luckily and thankfully blessed via the amazing help of CSP with identical twin boys, Joshua and Lucas. So we're very, very lucky. That was 11 years ago. And I'm still passionate about the cause of surrogacy. The assessments, the matching, the legal, the counselling sessions involving all the consenting adults during our commercial surrogacy arrangement were without hesitation most definitely worth it. The well-established, planned and paid-for arrangement protected all the parties and, most importantly, the children that we're blessed with. Australia is considered one of the most progressive countries in the world with regard to assisted reproduction. Over 40 years ago, Australia and the UK were the first two countries in the world to have live, successful IVF births. What baffles and frustrates me is, with so much skill and years of IVF success here in Australia, why aren't we more socially advanced and helping couples who are unable to use the traditional IVF transfer concept to have a family? The rationale I give myself is that somehow politics and religion has got in the way of a process and arrangement that works so well in countries that have been doing this for well over 30 years, such as the USA. It appears that we've been powerless to stop a minority of socially naive state and federal parliamentarians from deciding to ban and then recently criminalising overseas commercial surrogacy arrangements. These state and federal politicians have made uneducated, knee-jerk and selfish decisions based on their own personal and religious beliefs. This archaic Australian system where one or two people have the power to dictate whether a couple can legally create a family has to change. And I'm so stoked in what I just heard that there is the powerful movement in that area. In 2012, I wrote to the then leader of the opposition, Tony Abbott, who my husband and I happen to know through business connections. He is aware of John and I and our successful commercial surrogacy arrangement. In his last note to me prior to becoming the Prime Minister, he writes the following. I had to type it because I could hardly read a scrawl. As you can probably guess, my view on this matter tends to the traditional. Still, I accept and respect your advocacy, and obviously I'm so delighted at the family you and John have. In my view, the best person to start would be your local member. So I did. I took his advice, and that led me to the staunch Catholic then Attorney General, Greg Smith. Well, you can imagine the roadblocks. They were all built on his religion. All of it was built on his religious beliefs. Thankfully, New South Wales has a new Attorney General, Mrs. Gabrielle Upton. I'm wondering if we could harness her and see if she has some compassion and can put her personal beliefs aside. We need a champion in Parliament to help spearhead the change. Essentially, and to communicate that the ban and the criminalisation is an unwarranted and additional emotional weight on those who typically are using surrogacy as their last resort. Why do it? Why make them feel worse? But don't be disheartened though, change can take place. Powerful global religious leaders can even put their religious beliefs aside. 2010, the Pope allowed condoms. I mean, who would have thought? So he's publicly said that. So as intelligent, caring residents of this beautiful country to bring up children in, we need to harness that and find that political champion. Write letters. You don't even have to sign them if you don't want to. Write letters to your local member. Write letters to Gabrielle Upton. Tell them how you're feeling. We need to urgently decriminalise overseas surrogacy and allow commercial surrogacy centres to set up in Australia with all this wealth of knowledge and experience we have here. On the surface, it doesn't seem like a vote taker like hospitals and roads and education, but the burning desire to have a family is human nature, and infertility is so common. A lot of people don't talk about it though, and many people have sadly given up, but good on you for being here. Thankfully, as we meet here today, many Australian couples are either crossing their fingers waiting to hear the news from their surrogate overseas, I'm pregnant, or setting up their nurseries awaiting their arrival. They haven't given up. They haven't been bullied by the politicians. They've continued to go ahead with their dreams. Australian surrogacy arrangements will continue to take place, despite what the out-of-touch politicians decide to say and do. Don't give up on your mission to create a family, despite the homework traumas, and trust me, I'm having them at the moment. It is so worth it. It is so amazing. I'm going to have these boys when I'm old and they can take me out and it's just going to be so delicious. I mean, and then I'll remind them of the homework traumas, and I'm not going to be alone. My husband and I, we're going to have these kids, so old age is going to be so groovy. There are reputable, experienced and caring international agencies here to help you make that second step, because you've made the first one. You're here today, and that's so cool, because it gives me goosebumps, because there was nothing like this when John and I started this. Don't just take a brochure either. Seize the opportunity to talk to people. Grab me if you want. I'm a little bit out of touch. It was a while ago, but the concept's still the same. The template's the same. There's a consenting adult busting to help you. She's going to feel great about it. Something she wants to do for whatever reason. She's there to help you. And I wish you all the success in your journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. There are 7 seats down the front here for people who are standing at the back and feel like resting their legs. And there's some seats over here too, which you could bring around. So please come forward if you do want to have a seat. There's about 7 along the front there. Okay, I'm going to introduce our most popular panel really from years gone past. Really, we're going to hear from the children born through surrogacy, Australian kids who come of age, if you like. They're 17 to 26. And I'll get Kate Bourne to introduce them in person. Kate's actually the Australian and New Zealand Infertility Counsellors Association Chair, and she's been a real great partner for us over many years now. Can I get the panellists, Matt, Alice and Morgan and Kate, to come up?
So amazing, isn't it? You're all wanting one of these, and they grow into these. It's very important to think about that they grow into these, because we can get so focused and so covered in baby lust that we actually need to think about the adult's needs, the child's needs, what they're going to need when they're 15, what they're going to need when they're 25, what they're going to need when they're 50. So here from the horse's mouth, these are young people's experience. I'll just introduce everyone. So Morgan's here. Morgan, raise your hand. Morgan is 17 and she's studying year 12. While Morgan is an only child at home, she has 4 half-brothers and a half-sister in Riversdale, Los Angeles, born in the US herself with the help of the Centre for Surrogate Parenting. Morgan has known about her birth from the moment that she could ask about it. Then we have Alice. Alice was in fact Australia's first child via surrogacy. In 1988, Alice's birth caused quite a stir. For those of you old enough, we can all remember that. Conceived using donor sperm and her mum's egg, and then implanted into her aunt Linda's womb. 8 months later, the last time she was early for anything, she appeared as Australia's first IVF surrogate kid. Since then, she's enjoyed being an only child of older parents who thought they could never have children. And no, she does not feel special because of the way she was born. Alice also happens to be a freelance journalist. Now, you may have seen Alice and Morgan on a recent 7:30 report. Then we have Matt. Matt was raised on a sheep stud in the Riverina. Matt's parents used a US surrogate in Denver, Colorado. Matt is a typical sports-mad 17-year-old who plays hockey at state level. He played yesterday, basketball in winter, tennis in summer, and is in the local swimming club. On top of that, he's in the choir and drums in the school pipe band. The star speaker of our 2013 conference, Matt will talk about identity, sense of self, and telling friends. I'm just exhausted hearing about all of that, Matt, and I'm so glad I don't have to chauffeur you around.
How long is that list?
Very much an all-rounder. So, first of all, I'll ask you all, perhaps I'll start with you, Matt, if you can each tell me a little bit about how your parents came to have you.
Oh, here we go. Okay, well, about 18, 19 years ago, my parents realised that they couldn't have a child through normal conception. So I believe Mum told me the story once. It was they were having a holiday somewhere and they picked up the paper and there was an ad about surrogacy. So off they went over to America, all hope and everything, and about 8.5 months later, I've always been early, I pop out. There's a bit of a story about that. My dad had just bought a new ute and the phone rang and the surrogate mother was on the other end saying, "I need a name, the child's popping out." So that's my story, and up to you, one of you two.
I guess I'll go next. Yeah, so my mum had a hysterectomy in her late 20s, early 30s, sometime around then. Jeez. Okay, that's that there. Yeah, my dad found out that he was infertile when he tried to donate sperm in his early 30s. Basically, they were not in a whole bunch of luck. And when my dad proposed, he said, "Look, I'm sorry I can't have children." And Mum said, "Whoop-de-doo, I can't either." But of course that didn't stop Dad, because Dad's crazy. So he's like, about a year later, he's like, let's have a kid through surrogacy. And Mum's like, "The what?" Because at that point, it hadn't been done before, I guess. And Dad likes to invent things, and I was possibly his last successful invention. It's been a while. Yeah, so they went and had dinner at my Aunt Linda's house, and Mum opened her mouth to ask, and Linda said, "I can't have a baby for you, Maggie." And Mum's like, "Oh, I was just about to ask you." And then it turned out that Linda didn't want to have a baby looked up at her with her brown eyes. Mum's like, "Oh, that's totally fine. I have eggs." And then Linda's like, "Oh, cool. Let's just do that then." Linda got pregnant first time round, and then 8 months later, there I was.
Where did the sperm come from, Alice?
Oh, it came from a donor who I know about, but we don't talk about his name. But sperm donor, which is good because it means, well, Dad looks really weird, so I did not need that. Yeah.
Morgan.
Alright. Well, my parents tried to have kids naturally for so many years. Mum has always been obsessed with children. She's always wanted her own baby. She's like, when we're walking down the street, I have to drag her off other people's babies. That's just how bad it is. And so after realising that it just wasn't going to happen, they went to IVF first, and I think that went through maybe 9 miscarriages, and it was a massive it was a struggle. I've heard about this struggle many times, and it was horrible. It was just terrible. So after all of this pain, they decided, I'm not actually sure how they found out about surrogacy, but they just went for it. They knew it was their last choice, and they were dedicated to it. So they flew over to America, and they met all our family, and everything went well, and here I am today.
So Morgan, when and how did your parents tell you about how your family came to be, and what do you remember of that?
Well, I don't even remember the first time I found out. As soon as I could start talking, and you know how the kids are really curious, and they're always like, "Oh, where did I come from?" And I definitely asked that, and Mum always told me straight up. I always knew that I was never from Mum's tummy. I was always from Auntie Laurie's, and that's just always been common knowledge. It's always been in the back of my mind, always known that I was different.
And you, Alice?
Well, the press conference announcing my birth happened at 2 weeks. So my parents didn't really have the opportunity to keep it a secret if they wanted to. But Mum has always planned on telling me the story. And I think while she changed my second nappy or something, she told me the story of how she and Dad didn't have any seeds, and so they had to grow the seeds in my Aunt Linda's tummy, and magical seed. I don't know. Gardening was really weird for a while. When I was about 3, they kind of went to the full-on terms and explained to me where all different kinds of babies came from. And so then the next day at kindergarten, I explained to all the other children. And I was really popular with their parents for a while.
And you, Matt?
I'm a bit like Morgan. I've always known, ever since I can't actually remember the first time that I was told that I was born through surrogacy. It's always just been something that's been open to discussion in our house, and honestly, I can't remember asking a question. I think it was just always part of who I was.
When did it first dawn on you that not everyone used someone else's tummy to have their baby?
probably the same as the last answer. I can't remember. It's just I've never really given it much thought, and it's just been who I was and who everyone else was. It's never really been I'm different or they're different. We're just human beings, and that's the way it was. I never really had much interest in it.
And did your friends at school know that?
Yes, they did. All my friends know. Living in a small country town, it's really not hard to keep. It's really not hard to keep things from people. Everyone knows. So all my friends know, and honestly, no one gives me anything about it. It's just who I am.
How about for you, Morgan?
Well, I moved around a little bit. I started off in Sydney, and this was when I was quite young, so I told all of my close friends about that, and they didn't understand as much, so I wasn't a big topic of conversation. They were kind of leaning towards adoption, and they just had no idea of what it was. So when I moved to Melbourne, and this was in the high school, and everyone was a bit more mature and everything, and I, one by one, would just tell people that I felt close to, and they all understood really well, and then I went on TV, and now everyone knows.
Yeah. What sort of reaction did you get?
Everyone was amazingly positive about it. Everyone was so curious about it, and everyone from school to work would ask me, people would come up to me and was like, so I was doing my homework last night, and I looked up at the TV, and there you were. Why was that? And I have teachers showing the program in classes for ethics and everything.
Wow.
And it's definitely strange. People still come up to me. It's 2 weeks have gone. They're like, yeah, that was definitely you on the TV a few weeks ago, wasn't it? I remember that. So everyone has been really positive about it, and just they're all really curious about what it is, because it's still not too well known as what it is, what surrogacy is. So yeah, lots of questions.
Do you ever get tired of answering the question?
No, not really. I don't know, I tell it differently every time. It's all the same way, but it's interesting to tell, and everyone is so interested to listen to it, and it just, when someone is so genuinely interested, it's nice to talk about it.
I imagine everyone knows about you, Alice, or for some of the people that you know now, you're not defined by this.
Yeah, in school it was a little bit harder because I was in the biology and law textbooks. But kind of after school, I didn't really need to mention it, just because I got born and so did they, and it doesn't really matter how. It's not their business, but whenever the surrogacy stuff comes up in the news, my editor tends to be like, so, column on surrogacy? And so, yeah, it's not that easy to keep. But you don't want to keep it hidden, but you can't.
Yeah. One thing all prospective parents worry about is teasing, and whether you were ever teased. Matt, were you ever teased by kids at school?
There was one when back in primary school. I was probably about year 3, year 2, and I think we'd had a day and we were just talking about it in class, and this kid came up to me after class and said, "Oh, so your mother didn't want you, so she gave you away." I didn't really know how to answer that, as I suppose most year 2s wouldn't. So I went home and I talked to my parents, and that's really I suppose that's the first time I really got sat down and fully explained, but that was it, and I just went back and explained it to the kid the next day, and he kind of just looked at me as if to say, "Oh, that's what happened." So yeah, that's really the only once.
What about you, Alice?
In year 10, I changed schools, and a kid came up to me and was like, "Ha ha, test tube kid, test tube kid." I'm like, "Yeah, your parents had sex. Picture that." And that's, aside from...
It's a terrible, terrible thought.
You're giving your kids a gift. They never have to... Yeah. I'm an immaculate conception. But aside from that, in year 9, the RE textbook at my first high school talked about how all kids conceived through artificial reproductive technology are not people in the eyes of God, and are lower than animals and will not get into heaven. And I had a discussion with the RE teacher, and then I got expelled. But yeah, I don't think that's really around anymore, since 1 in 3 kids or 1 in 30, a large number of kids.
One child in every classroom, about 3-4%.
That's the word. Yeah, 3. I think 3 was involved somewhere. Yeah, by ART. So I don't think that's in the textbooks anymore.
Wasn't really the school old for you, clearly.
No.
What about for you, Morgan?
Look, if anything, it's the red hair that's giving me grief.
Really?
Yep.
It doesn't
people-
even look very red. I mean, look at Alice.
I was a true ginger when I was a child, and that did not get me far. But other than no one's ever given me trouble for it. They're just like, the best part is like, you were born in America? No way! And I was like, yeah.
So, on a day-to-day basis, when would you actually think about this? How often would it come into your mind? I mean, clearly today, but apart from that,
Hardly ever. It's not something I need to think about. It is what it is. I know about it, and if anyone asks, I'll tell them about it. But no one's really going to ask how I was born. No one really cares. It's just, yeah, I'm here now.
Yeah, once you get out of kindergarten, people kind of stop asking where you came from. But I'll probably think about it whenever I get an eczema rash or something, and I'll call Mum and say, "Why didn't you use an egg donor?" That's really about it.
I was talking to you earlier, and I said, answered this question. I said I probably only think about it once a year, and that's when I'm here. That's the only time I ever think about it.
yeah. So do you ever discuss it with friends? It doesn't sound like. No?
No.
No. Definitely. Okay. So, what contact do all of you have with the woman that carried you? Perhaps I'll start with you, Morgan. So,
Well, luckily for me, we travel a lot, and so we've gone up there, I'd say, I think it's been every 5 years. And then we Skype, and of course, now that Facebook and every other social online thing is available, I've connected with them there, and I always see the updates of my brothers and their kids and everything. So yeah, it's pretty common contact. It's nothing too personal. It's only when we see them that we find out about everything. But I always know the updates of their life, and yeah, it's really good.
what about you? So this is your Auntie Linda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Linda and I see each other at Easter and Christmas and stuff, and we chat on Facebook. But she's just my aunt. I don't think, aside from when we do media, we never really talk about the whole surrogacy thing, because I don't think either of us are particularly attached to it.
Do you have other aunts?
Yeah, so I'm just, Mum and Linda have a sister, Cynthia, and I'm equally close to Cynthia and Linda. Cynthia offered to be an egg donor, but said she couldn't carry the baby, and Linda said she could carry the baby but couldn't be an egg donor.
So it's similar, quite similar. Yeah.
Yeah, but she was not my egg donor.
Yeah. And you, Matt?
I probably talk to my surrogate mother twice a year maybe, and that's around birthdays and Christmas. We send messages to each other, and that's about it. But I know Mum keeps in very good contact with her. They're very close friends, so we do keep in contact, and we talk to each other and send messages and say hello every now and then.
What do you think it would be like for all of you if it wasn't possible to have contact with your surrogate?
I'm not sure how I'd be affected by that. I feel that with this contact, it's a lot better. I like knowing what my biological mum looks like, and if I look anything like her, and of course if there are any traits in the family that I would have picked up. And I love knowing their family, and I love knowing my other half brothers and sister. It's I don't know, it's like an extended family. It is nice.
I think it all depends on how kind of my parents framed the story. If it was impossible for me to know, I'm sure they would have found a way to make that okay. Because it all depends on how the story's told. But I know who my sperm donor is, and it turned out that I'd had a fair bit of contact with him throughout my life, but we've never actually had a conversation about it, ever. And I haven't really seen him. He came to my engagement party, but I didn't really talk to him, and so we don't really have much contact. So I think that's kind of how I compare it. And during my teen years, that got a bit angsty, because dear God, teens will find anything to be angsty about. But yeah, I don't think it would really make a huge difference if it was impossible, but it's better that I do know.
I'm a bit like Morgan. I haven't really thought about that much, but I think I'd feel deprived if I didn't know. Something's being kept from me. It's about who I am, and I think I would want to know. I've always known, so I've never had to think about not knowing. But I would always want to know. Even if it was like I couldn't know. There'd be some part of me that would want to know.
Knowing is always preferable, and
Yeah.
secrets
Definitely.
really suck.
So, you've mentioned that your surrogates have children, and so what's your relationship with their kids? Do you want to start there, Matt?
I will. So my surrogate mother has one daughter, and she's a few years older than me. She's at a college in America at the moment, and she's too very sporty. So we talk to each other over Facebook every now and then. Rarely, but every now and then. So I don't have probably the connection that Morgan does, but she is, like, I suppose, a half sister to me, and we do every now and then catch up and say hello on Facebook and things like that.
Linda has 2 kids, Heather and William, and they're both much older than me. We used to all be pretty close, but we've all kind of grown up and moved away, and so we don't see each other very often. My sperm donor has 3 kids, but they don't know about the whole thing.
Well, I have 4 brothers and a sister in America, and when we go there, like the last time in March we went and saw them, I was feeling a bit nervous about it. I wasn't sure how I was going to like react, but as soon as I went in there, they acted as if I'd never left and if I'd always lived there, and they're like, "Hey sis, how's it going?" And it was almost tacky, but it just felt like family. Like, I don't think I thought of them as my brothers and sisters, but I knew they were family. So yeah, it's a really good relationship with them all, and of course I see them all the time on Facebook with their kids and everything. It's great.
So it sounds a bit more like cousins. Is that how it is? Or
I guess you
mean,
could
there's
think
not
of it as
really
cousins, yeah.
a word for it.
Yeah, they're really, I have no idea how to describe it.
Yeah.
Womb siblings.
There you go. Good one. Such a word screw. So we've covered this a little bit, but for you, Alice and Morgan, one of your parents isn't your biological parent. So what impact has that had on you, and what impact has that been like?
I don't really have a problem with that at all. Like, I know for a fact that my mum just couldn't carry me, and that's not her fault, and she still loves me just as much as any mum who did carry their child, and if not more, because she had to try a lot harder for it. So it's not a problem at all. Yeah.
I think Dad had a couple of issues with it. Not serious issues, like he is my dad, he knows that, but trying to work out where I fit in with the extended Clark family for a little while. But I've never had any problems with it. Dad and I are weirdly similar in a lot of ways. Too many ways. And I'm just really glad I didn't inherit his teeth. Seriously, he dove into a pool and one fell out, and so he just shoved it back in and then left it. It's weird.
Morgan reminded me of something. Back when you said about people teasing you, every now and then you get someone, just as a joke, they'll say, "Oh, yeah, your parents didn't want you, you're an accident." Well, my answer to that is there is no possible way I'm an accident. Unless it's like a very expensive accident. So
3 of the most planned children in the world.
And again, that question about not being able to know who the donor was or your biological genetic connection, how would that have been if you hadn't been able to know that your surrogate actually gave her egg as well?
I would definitely not feel complete. I'm the type of person that I need to know everything, and if I don't know, I will snoop my way until I find it. Absolutely. And so if I ever found out about the whole surrogacy thing and not know who was a part of it, I would not be happy with that at all. I wouldn't feel comfortable with it almost. I need to know what I'm made from. And
so your parents would have been in deep trouble.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I wasn't a hellraiser already, I would have made it worse.
Yeah. Now for you worked out who your donor was.
I also did not like secrets and like to investigate. I was 12 when I guessed, because I'd known him my whole life, but he didn't want anyone to know, including me, until I absolutely had to. Look, I don't really like that he... I'm really, really grateful that I exist and I have his hair, because he's got a good hairline, but I don't like that he is too ashamed of it to tell his parents or his kids or anyone else. And I think think you kind of need to think through that stuff. If you don't want to be known, why are you doing it? Like, what are you ashamed of?
Do you think that'll be resolved one day?
No, not really. Like, I'm not really that interested anymore. Like, when I was 13, I cared, but that was so very long ago now.
I imagine it'll be quite a surprise for his kids.
Yeah.
And he might be in deep trouble.
We all look very similar, and I think if his kids ever do find out, there's going to be some questions.
It's going to hit the fan.
Yeah. And it would be nice to have a conversation with my genetic grandparents about the whole thing, because I've known them my whole life too. Yeah, interesting.
Especially before they die.
Well, one already has.
Oh.
And the other one's pretty close. Yeah,
Time
really
is
old.
of the essence. Yeah. Now, a lot of potential parents fear that their kids are going to tell them in anger, I hate you, you're not my real parents, my real mother would let me stay out till 4 in the morning. Have you ever said that sort of thing, Morgan?
Alright, well. There's been one occasion from recollection. I was in China actually. I think I was in grade 4, so I must have been 9, I think.
An early developer.
Oh,
It's mostly
look,
teenage years.
I've been crazy since the age of 2. Absolutely. So it wasn't to like, I didn't actually believe what I said. It's just I knew what would grind my mum's gears, and so I went all out and I said that to her. I don't remember what the fight was about. I don't know what I could possibly be fighting about whilst in China. Like, what? I don't know. But yeah, Mum's actually had to tell me one day, do you remember when you said that? And I had no idea. I could not remember it, not even slightly. But I definitely would know the reasoning why, and it's just because she would have said no to something and I just wanted to make her mad. And that's about it.
So you went for the jugular.
Oh yeah, I went crazy. Yeah, my mum was actually really proud the first time I said it, because I was 4. And I was paying attention.
Again, another gifted child.
Yeah. And mum was like, she gets it. But also not, obviously, because she is my real mum in every way. But yeah, after that, like, we joke about it all the time. I'll occasionally joke about it with Dad. Teen years, I was a total bitch. But yeah, it's a joke now. Like, we all feel very secure in our family, so we're able to say these things. It's really fun.
And you, Matt?
I did say it once. I don't know if Mum remembers, but I was...
We all remember.
Well, it's a bit of a surprise. I wasn't allowed to play a sporting game because of one reason or another. So we're in the car on the way home, and Mum had been giving me a lecture the whole way home about why I was not allowed to play sport for that day. And so I turned around and just gave it to her. And I've thought about it. It's probably the most thing I think about is why I said that, and I regret it. It's just something that you know it's the most. When you say that to your mother, you know that they fear that the most, is what their child thinks about them. And then I think about it, and I just think, why was I such a little arsehole that said that?
I would have been grateful for my mum to say, don't play sport. Say no.
Now, may I share with you that my daughter is from my egg and from my body, and I have the scars to prove it. And she, at 14, told me that I said, Maddie, I'm not the enemy. And she said, but, and I said, why are you, why is it like this? And she said, well, Mum, it's like this. Everything you do and everything you say irritates me, and I can't stand your personality. And I said, oh, Maddie, can you give me some examples? She said, no, that would hurt your feelings. So can I just say that this is normal behaviour? Okay.
Teenagers are the antichrist no matter what happens.
Oh yeah.
We have a lovely relationship now, and we did within a very short time. So now, have we got any time for questions from the floor? Yeah. So now it's your turn. Are there any burning questions that I've got a few more, but I just thought that you might like the opportunity to ask questions.
Don't be shy, guys. We're the ones sitting up here.
Bring it.
Okay, I have some prepared earlier. Oh, we do? Yes. Here we go. Yes? There was one lady here.
Question is for Alice.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Sue.
Hi.
Hi. Just about your story. You were then formally adopted to your parents?
Yeah, I'm kind of the everything bagel of children. IVF, surrogacy, donor, adoption.
Right. So that time adoption was allowed in Australia? Sorry, I wasn't there here when...
It was very, very difficult for my parents. They had to wait till I was 1. So technically I didn't have official parents until I was 1 because Linda gave me up for adoption at birth. And then Mum and Dad just kind of looked after me for a year. The judge threatened to take me away from everyone and give me to someone else because they told off my parents for seeking media, which they really didn't. They got chased from a hospital because of all the cameras and they wanted to avoid it. They had to get the Attorney General had to recommend a barrister. Like it was hardcore. They almost couldn't. But back then there were no laws about surrogacy. They were created after and because of me. So sorry about that.
Much easier now.
Later. Yeah, much easier now. But yeah, back then
Things have changed.
Back then it was really bad, and Mum and Dad still have flashbacks occasionally. But then we all went out to the Rialto and had like dinner afterwards, or somewhere fancy. It was really nice. I had shellfish.
Thanks, Alice.
I got a tricycle. No, it wasn't that handbags back then.
Now, Chairperson Sam, I imagine you're just going to wind us up when we have to finish, so I'll just keep going until you do. Good? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I've got a few prepared earlier. One question I remember from another surrogacy conference was that if you needed to surrogate to have a child, would you consider it or would you do it?
Oh,
Morgan?
definitely. Like, even the other day in health, we were learning about, like, the whole birth and everything, and I saw, like, just the aftermath, and I was like, I think I'm going to do that now, like... Decision made.
No.
Whoa. I don't think I'd be able to go through that.
Yeah, I take after my mum. I'm going to be using someone else's uterus.
We're getting some too posh to push people here.
You bet.
But one of the bonuses of being just so gay is that I have a spare. So, though the argument continues over, no, you have the baby. No, you have the baby. So we'll see who wins, and then hopefully at least one of us is fertile. But if I had to do surrogacy, maybe. I don't know if I want to go overseas to do that, just because it's a lot of hassle, but it depends on how strongly I feel about children at the time.
You don't have to go overseas. It is possible here, Alice.
Yeah, except I don't have a friend close enough to do altruistic surrogacy for me.
That you know.
That's true. That is true.
It is possible here. Surrogates.
Yeah, I do know that I will.
We need to do some myth busting here.
Sorry. I'm too used to back in my parents' day. I'm 50 years old. But I do know that I would use donor sperm, well, because I have to. But and I would go with a known donor just because non-known donors there's so much more hassle than it's worth. That kid will be a total.
Well, all donors in Australia have to be identity release, so it is impossible to do anonymous.
But you don't have to do it in Australia.
Well, that would be a great pity. Matt, what about you?
Oh, I'm totally in agreement with the girls.
Yes.
Too posh to push.
So, if you're beloved...
Yes, I would definitely. If I had to, yes, it's not even a question. I would do it.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
And it probably one will be asked of the surrogates, but I'd like your point of view. The critics of surrogacy, any surrogacy, say, you're breaking the natural bond between the birth mother and the child. What do you guys feel about that argument that the critics would put forward?
Stupid. Yeah, go for it.
How do they know? Have they been born through surrogacy? Have they had personal experience? Because we are the ones that have had personal experience, and so are our mothers. And so they're trying to make an argument for something that they don't understand. So I think that it's invalid.
A lot of people against A lot of people will tell you what's right and what's wrong, and it's usually informed by how their lives have gone. Being gay is wrong. having surrogacy is wrong, having purple shoelaces is wrong. Those people are jerks. But it's also, it wasn't breaking the bond of mother and child. My mum was always my mum, and Linda just really intensely babysat me. Like, giving birth does not make you a parent.
Whoever is carrying the child for you, whether it's a natural conception or a surrogacy conception, that's for 9 months. Then the baby's born and you have that child with you for 18 years most likely.
25.
25. You're still at home?
No, I moved out like 2 years ago, but I still
You moved back.
a lot. Yeah.
So my point is, isn't it more important once they've arrived into this world, what the parent does that moment in time, once they open their eyes and see their mum, dad and dad, or mum and mum or whatever, the focus on the 9 months in the womb just blows me away. Baffles me.
It's squishier and more life-threatening.
Another thing with that is we don't really, you start to remember things at a young age, but you don't remember when you're in the womb. So that connection happens once you're born. So there's no connection between who you came from and who looks after you. That's the connection. The person that actually looks after you, cares for you, feeds you, wipes your bottom, they're the person that you have the connection with, not the person that you came from.
Yeah, no matter what genetic connection you have with someone, it's who raised you, it's who made you like who you are today. That's who's important, and that's your mum, and that's who's raised you. Yeah.
Genetics and gestation only matter as much as you let them. Sorry, now you can.
We also have Karen and Tanya here, the mums. Are there any questions for the parents? No? Okay.
I've kind of got a question for all of them. Is there anything that you reflect on now and think, I wish that things had been slightly different in the order that we did it, or the way that that we put the relationships together? Is there any tips for people like myself who have been raising a child through surrogacy now? And I just kind of think, I think it's all going to work out pretty well, but we might hit potholes, or we might find we're trying to make decisions about how to introduce characters or how to put the family together that we would like your advice on, particularly the parents, I think.
Great question. Who wants to go first?
I'll go this one. Tell early and tell often, but have the words for everyone worked out early on. So what we use for me is I have 3 mothers and 3 fathers, but only 1 mum and dad. And mum and dad are the words that mattered the most. So you have to make sure that they're separate from everyone else, but you still have to find terms that your kids will understand.
That's very important. Just make sure they know early. Like, there should never be a point where they do know. It should always just be something that they have known. That's probably the biggest thing I could say.
And of course the right information, like you can't just tell them little bits and pieces, otherwise they'll put some whole other story together that probably isn't even true. They need to know everything, and they need to know the total truth. It just makes everything better.
And I'd just like to give a little plug for Vata. Vata has all this information on talking to your child about donor conception or surrogacy. It's on our website. We have lots of films, podcasts from parents, as well as information about ages and stages, all sorts of things. And we also run a Time to Tell seminar to help parents. We have a special breakout group in the afternoon for surrogacy families. So please come along next year. Good. Any other questions, or are we on one of them?
Oh, yeah.
Just a question for the parents. You all seem to maintain a really good relationship with the surrogate. How would you feel if that had fallen apart, broken? Am I looking in the right direction?
Yes,
Just,
Karen's here.
Here you go. You want a microphone?
Go, Charles, go.
So
I'll repeat the question. What would have, it sounded like everyone had lovely relationships with their, ongoing relationships with their surrogate. What would it have been like if that had gone sour?
And they've maintained the relationship. Has that been difficult at times, or how have they managed to maintain such a close relationship?
Another great question.
It is a very good question. Hi, I'm Tanya, the very lucky mother of young Morgan here. First of all, can I just say welcome to everyone too, because I know what heartache and a long journey you've all had to get here, and all I can say is go for it. Don't wait, do it. because it's absolutely fantastic. About the relationship with Laurie, we've got a fantastic relationship, and that was all when we went through the clinics, CSP, that all was all worked out prior to signing contracts and stuff. We discussed all this in full, the relationship that we all wanted to have. It was a lot more a relationship early on because it was, you know, when you have a baby, it's just so mind-blowing, and I spoke to her quite often, but she has 5 children of her own and about 13 grandchildren the last time I counted. And she's very, very busy, but and she doesn't get on the phone, like you just leave messages and messages, but we talk a lot, we send cards, gifts, presents, but you know, she has her family, and thanks to her we have our family, but it's a fantastic relationship, and I'm very, very happy that it still continues, of course. I mean, she's Morgan's, you know, special auntie. You know, that's the way we've always thought about it. But, yeah, no, it's fantastic.
She didn't have a choice, did she, Mum? She was giving you me. You were going to keep in contact with her.
Well, yeah.
You are kind of connected irrevocably, aren't you?
Oh,
for the sake of Morgan, it's sort of it's a good reason to get on.
Yeah, but talking about the honesty thing too before, when Morgan was born, Morgan is the absolute clone of my husband. Like baby photos, you can't tell them apart.
Unfortunately.
Oh, you're gorgeous.
Even after all what we went through and the journey we went through to have our darling daughter, so many friends, even very close friends, and some families said, "Are you going to tell her the truth? Are you going to lie?" And I go, "Why would I lie? I mean, the journey we went through and how proud we are and what we went through to get her. Why would you lie about it?" But I was quite amazed that so many friends did say that to me. She looks like, you know, she is the spit of my husband, truly.
And apparently you, according to some of your friends.
So, oh yeah,
that's the other. Look so much alike. What is it? The eyes?
Yeah, Morgan and I have had fun with that, which we can't do anymore after the 7:30 report, obviously. But yeah, some of her friends, they'll go, "Oh my God, you know, you two are so alike," and I go, "Yeah, look at
what do you think it is, Mum?"
Yeah, and we play along with it sometimes, having a bit of a joke to ourselves. But since the 7:30 report, that's obviously finished. But yeah,
and it sounds like it's so good that you did tell her, because you know Morgan said she would have been so cross with you if she'd found out.
Absolutely.
I would have so many people who did know
yes.
that there was a high chance that it would have come out.
Yeah, I would never, ever, ever not tell the truth. I mean, never. She would have found out.
How do you feel about the distance of your surrogate? Alice, I know that yours is close. You have a constant relationship with her, but if you had the choice to do surrogacy in Australia, would you have preferred that than to have this long distance relationship to the US?
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I can go to America anytime I want. I can live there. I think, like, I got the best thing possible. I got a place to stay. I've got I think it's the social security number. I can do everything.
Can I come too?
So
I agree.
I've got it all.
I'm with Morgan. 2 passports is the best.
Oh, we're living. Okay, I got Jib here.
I'd just like to reinforce what Tanya's actually spoken about, and all those elements were really important for us as well. We spent a lot of time talking to our agency about the surrogate mother and her qualities that we would like to work with, and they actually did a phenomenal job of matching us with the most amazing woman who has now become a lifelong friend. Your life moves on after surrogacy and your baby's born, and you actually just become entwined in their life, and I think that for us is really important. And the one thing that I really would like to stress is start and practice your story early, and talk to your baby whilst they're in the cot, because it just all becomes part of their life. And there is no way that I could ever have hidden. And I think living in a small country town, we're a little bit unique, is we knew that we just couldn't turn up with a brand new baby, even though my husband, who's a very private person, thought that that's what we were going to do.
By the way, this is my mother.
That was going to work.
So our surrogate mother, we had the most as I said, we had the most amazing experience with her, and we even stayed with our surrogate mother after Matt was born. Matt was in hospital for a little while, and she just wouldn't have it any other way. In answer to someone's question before about doing it surrogacy locally, I mean, it's really important to be part of each other's lives, and I wouldn't have liked to have missed that for anything. And I think you just work out a little bit harder, especially when the distance is there. But certainly, if you're at the stage today of thinking, will I or won't I, we have had just 18 years of, and now I'm going to get really emotional, but it's just been 18 years that I never thought that we were ever going to have. So I just think that, and Renee, don't look at me like that because I will cry. So certainly it's just a journey that we were, and we're very proud of our son, and we just wouldn't have had it any other way.
Want to say really quickly is make a photo book. Like, they're really easy to do. If you have a Mac, you can do it in Photos, or there's like tons and tons of services. Take photos of everyone involved, take photos of the whole story, and write a story that is appropriate for story time for your child, and you can just have the book, they can look at whenever, and that makes a huge difference. We had a photo album.
Thanks, Alice, and come along to my session tomorrow afternoon where I'll show you how.
Thanks, everybody.
If you have any questions later, I'm always on Twitter, and I'll be around for a little while.
Yeah, I think all three of us will be around. So if you have any questions, just come talk to us.
I have never had a question about surrogacy on Twitter. You could be my first.
They all travel, these guys, from interstate, usually, or from Canberra, so thank you so much for coming. You guys, it's terrific. On that note, I'm now just going to. We have got about 8 or 9 different books for sale this weekend, which are very hard to get because they've all come from the States, really. And we've got one of our partners who's brought them over for us, really. 2 for adults, a very funny one called Mummy Man, How I Went from Mild-Mannered Geek to Gay Super Dad, which is hysterical. One of our parents who's talked to conferences wrote that, about his journey in the US. Another book about surrogacy in the US, a bit of a guide, and some wonderful books about telling your kids their story. Books both for gay dad families and for heterosexual families, about your tummy time and so forth, kind koalas, all kinds of things. So have a look at those if you're interested out there at the registration desk during the weekend. There aren't a lot of them, so you have to get in quick. I am now going to introduce Kim Bergman, who's going to actually change this focus a little bit to the psychology of surrogacy. Kim's got an amazing talk on this topic, and she's probably one of the best experts worldwide on this particular area. She's from Growing Generations. Please welcome Kim to the